Boston College lands another Power 4 transfer, and Bill OBrien is doing an excellent job at building depth on this Eagles roster.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I've been covering Boston College for over 10 years, and I cover them now for 247, and I'm the host of this podcast. If you're looking for Boston College news and scoops, you're in the right place. We are a daily Boston College podcast. We do this 5 days a week. It's free wherever you get your podcasts, and it's your team every day. On today's show, we're going to talk a little bit of basketball. BC's got their mid-season tournament. I'm going to say why, even with this happening, it seems like it's kind of a punch in the face to BC. I'll explain what I mean there. We'll also talk about the transfer portal. They land a commitment. They land a true freshman for the class of 26, and we'll talk about what's next. We have a packed episode. So, if you guys know, on Friday, Boston College, actually it was Thursday night, if I'm going to be correct, Boston College landed a commitment from West Virginia defensive lineman Makai Byerson. Makai Byerson is a redshirt freshman who played 4 snaps last year for West Virginia. He projects to be a defensive tackle, not a nose guard. He'll be more like the George Rook, Seth McConnell kind of, B-gap type guys. He was someone BC went after. I think it was more Jeff Hafley's staff during his original recruiting, but he visited earlier this week, as I reported on Eagle Insider, and he committed a couple days later. So, why should you be excited for a guy who has not played at all? And for this upcoming year, yeah, maybe he's not going to make a big impact yet. You have Ty Clemens, you have Owen Stodmeyer, and even Chuck Nato and Quan Williams. You have guys already on your roster. But as I've mentioned on this show before, you look ahead at what BC has for their defensive tackle position moving forward, and it's scary because there's not much after this year. All those names I just read you, they're all gone. Your entire 2 deep is gone. And if you had developed and brought in guys, yearly, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. But that's the big issue. You really haven't. You missed on guys like Nigel Tate. You were supposed to bring in Caleb Jones from he was one of those other transfers a couple of years ago. He never even made it here, or he never even played here. Excuse me. He did. He got hurt. So your depth there was really shattered. And you can't go into next year with your starters being Sterling Sanders and, a bunch of freshmen. You just can't do that. So what has Bill OBrien done? He has done an excellent job of building the depth back up for the future. While you may not see Makai Byerson play this year, he's ready for next year. And then next year will be his 3rd year. Boom. Right in that window where you start to compete for starting jobs. You'll have him there. You'll have Chris Marable, Jr. from Wake Forest, another defensive tackle that you brought in to fix this issue. I think this is very smart roster management by Bill OBrien. He saw an issue and he nailed it right away, because you could, wait until after this year and try to find a bigger name. And maybe that's what they do. Maybe they go next year for a guy that's more established. You wouldn't hate him for trying, but now you have Bierson in your system for an entire year. He's now, after the end of this year, he's got 2 college years under his belt. He should be a guy that could compete. So all of a sudden, in the span of 2-3 weeks, with the addition of Marable, with the addition of Bierson, your defensive tackle depth chart looks drastically different moving forward. And it really removes that question mark. Because honestly, at the end of the season, you don't want to have to go into the transfer portal for a guy that you just have to have, because that makes things harder for you. And defensive tackles are harder. They're I believe they're a premium position at the NIL, in terms of cost. So you don't want to have to do that. And you got a guy you liked. He was a 3-star out of high school. He's from Virginia, Midlothian. And, you went after him in high school. He had offers from Virginia Tech, who I think he was looking at in the transfer portal again as well, but you beat them out. And again, I'm going to say this just because I like it. It is so relieving to me that Bill O'Brien's transfer portal philosophy is not just going after FCS guys. If you want to get some, I'm all for it. I'm all for guys that are hungry, but I think it's a good mix. You don't want to just get guys that have been sitting on the bench at the Power 4 level. You don't want to just get FCS guys. You want to meld them in. Now you have a guy from Michigan, a guy from Wake Forest, and a guy from West Virginia to add with your 2 Alabama guys. That's 5. It's about 50% of what you've brought in. So that's pretty good. And again, big scheme picture here. We talked depth at defensive tackle, but that's been what Bill O'Brien has hit in this transfer portal. He is not, in my opinion, Jason Hewlett might be the difference here, but for the most part, the other 3 guys have all been depth players. Chris Marable probably will play, but he's depth. And as I just said, Makai Byerson. Now, the third one that we're going to have to watch for, and this is kind of the what's next for this piece, is Ella Boykin. It's spelled Ella, but it's got an apostrophe. So Ela Boykin. I'm going to go with Ela Boykin from Barton College, who's a linebacker. He was a true freshman defensive player of the conference in D2. He was on campus yesterday. And we'll have to wait to see what happens there. I know he had a bunch of visits, so he has not committed yet, but he, again, would add depth to that linebacker room. I am all for building depth, especially with the way this transfer portal works. One of the things the transfer portal does really well is it really decimates your depth, because all it takes is for one player to find out that they're not starting and boom, they're in the portal. BC, they have a culture right now where, other than maybe George Rooks and Ryan Turner, most of the guys that are here are staying here. Even if it's those 2 guys, it's not that big of a deal. Look what happened to Syracuse. They lost everybody. You keep bringing in your guys and developing them and recruiting them, and then supplement them with depth guys like this, and you're in good shape. You've already established the guys that you want, and you bring in guys to help do what you need to do. So I love this move. I think this is great. If people keep asking me, will they continue to be active in the portal? I honestly believe, I think it's it's Bierson, obviously, who's now in, and Boykin. I think those are the last 2 that they've been linked to. I don't see them doing anything else on top of that. Now, one last question that people have been asking is that 105 roster rule. We're going to find out, I think it's by next Wednesday, that the ruling has to be solidified, but it sounds like they're going to grandfather groups in. So that's great news for BC's preferred walk-on group, because that means they can basically, I think they're going to be set with their roster, and all those guys will have their spots. So that's great, because I've said all along, I get what Bill O'Brien's saying there. That's terrible that these guys are going to lose their spots. Now, they're going to eventually lose their spots, and again, that's terrible. But at least BC doesn't have to just cut them, which is stupid. So hopefully that'll be the end of that. Now, I chose to record this late today because I knew there was going to be 2 news items, and I didn't want to wait till Sunday to have to record this. Additionally, on Friday morning, Boston College lands a commitment. I'll explain who that is and why you should be excited about this one in just a moment. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trades pros looking looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your order. That's supplyhouse.com. Welcome back. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. And for all our everydayers, all of you who are here 5 days a week on our free podcast that you can find on YouTube or on Google or any of the podcast apps, you know that we've been covering the BC recruiting class like it's nobody's business. And they added a new one on Friday as 26 linebacker Steve Klein out of Westwood, New Jersey, committed to Boston College. Now, he chose BC over offers from Syracuse. He's a 3-star recruit. He was scheduled to take an official visit to BC this June, but he decided he wanted to make that move quickly with Boston College. This is a nice get for BC. He's rated an 87, so that's a nice solid 3-star rating. It's not like anything lower. And he's kind of an under the radar kid because he played at a smaller school in New Jersey, but he's a New Jersey boy. And you know you love to grab New Jersey recruits for your class. If there's anything more BC than landing a couple big New Jersey kids, and especially a linebacker from New Jersey, you sign me up. And as you saw, I did my Polly Walnuts tweet when I knew this was happening. There couldn't have been a more perfect meme for this one, right? Polly Walnuts, Sopranos, you know what I'm saying here. All right. Now, who is this kid? Who, if you don't know, Hudson Standish of 247, the site that I work for, said he's a two-way start running back and box safety who finishes junior campaign with 132 carries for 1,124 yards and 13 touchdowns to go along with 81 tackles and 3 takeaways on defense. Estimated to hover somewhere in the neighborhood of 6'2", 200 pounds, likely spins down to linebacker at the next level, but could have a legitimate impact as a between the tackles runner. Dynamic athlete who can make acrobatic grabs at the edge of a catch radius just as easily as he can outrun defenders on outside the box. Pursues the football with fervor from sideline to sideline and can finish at the point of contact with authority. He's a savvy operator as a zone defender, backed up by 9 interceptions through 3 years of varsity experience, and has the athletic traits to potentially offer value as a coverage defender at the next level. So there you go. It mentions him as a running back. I don't expect him to be a running back. I think he's going to be a linebacker from what I've heard. So don't dive too much into his running back stats. And also, I believe he plays at a smaller level, so the numbers are a little conflated. And a lot of times, bigger running backs like him in high school, they switch over to linebacker at college anyway. So he's going to be a linebacker. 6'2", 200 pounds. That's good. Hey, and I know for the folks that have got sick of tired of Jeff Hafley's take safeties and make them into linebackers, this is not taking a safety and making a linebacker. This is your big, thumping, good-sized linebacker. And so you got to like that. There's other linebackers they're looking at, and I don't think they're going to bail off of any of them. There's Arden Reeder out of St. Xavier, Ohio. Obviously he went to the same high school with Sean Duggan, Luke Kuechly, Stephen Daniels. He's got an official visit set up to BC, but there's a lot of competition there. But I think there'll be 1 or 2 linebackers they'll go for in this class. Now, what's next? I asked this for the recruiting, the transfer portal too. What will be coming up next for BC? Obviously, the big name everyone wants to know about is Femi Babalola. Is he going to commit? And I've been in touch with my sources. Nothing's really changed since I left for my vacation. It's been the same. There's a new school, however, according to 247, that's really pushing for him, and that's Maryland. And they're pushing really hard. Now, of any school that I don't necessarily worry tons about as a quarterback is Maryland. Now, they're a good recruiting school, so I'm not going to discredit them there. But I feel like if you're a kid, you're a recruit, and you see Bill OBrien versus Maryland, you probably go with Bill OBrien. But who knows? I'm not a 18-year-old football recruit. But that's my thoughts there. And we are less than a month We're 26 days or 27 days away, 4 weeks away from the start of official visit season. That's when things start to really heat up. These are when, as we've mentioned before, but some of you knew, they wine and dine. They pay for the kids to come down. They take them out to dinner. They show them all the, do the photoshops, all that big stuff. That's when the rest of this class is going to come into view. That's when, the likes of Marky Walbridge, Carter Gooden, there's other recruits that Kai Pritchard, all these bigger high recruits that they're looking at are going to probably make their decisions shortly after that. So that's when I think I would not be surprised if things are quiet between now and official visit season. That being said, I didn't expect Steve Klein, but I'm not on the phone with all these kids every single day. Sometimes it just takes a phone call from a coach and things could change. So there could be a surprise there. And so we have that coming up as well soon. Now, in our final segment, I want to get into a basketball piece, and then I want to talk quickly about Syracuse. I have one really quick thought, and I have to say it before, it's my podcast, so I have the right to. I'll get into that in just a moment. So, welcome back to Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, and thank you to my everydayers who have listened to Locked On Boston College 5 times this week. If you are there, hit the comment section. Say, hey, AJ, I'm an everydayer. I love to hear from each and every one of you that make this part of your daily routine. And a special shout out for those that make this your first listen. If you wake up in the morning, you're hitting the road, you're listening to Locked On BC, all you everydayers out there doing that, you guys are great too. So thank you all. Our numbers are going out through the roof, and I want to appreciate each and every one of you who have made us part of your daily routine. Now, let's talk a little basketball. One quick question people have asked me. Is BC done in the portal? I have to think they are. I've not heard them linked to any other names. Now, the rosters have expanded, so BC has the ability if they want to, but they've had 4 out and they have 4 in. I would love to see them add some depth, but I have not seen them connected to any transfers. But, there's times when Earl Grant moves in silence, and I could think this could be a time like that. Now, the other BC news is that BC is going to play in the Charleston Classic in November. This is a multi-team event that has 2 brackets. And this is the reason I'm bringing this up. BC is going to play in the bracket with Tulane, Utah State, and Davidson. The other bracket is West Virginia, Xavier, Clemson, and Georgia. I bet you which one you can tell is the JV bracket. Now, this is kind of a kick in the face to BC. Like, you have in one bracket all like really decent to good college basketball teams, and in the other, you're playing in a bunch of mid-major programs. Now, I get it. BC has not been competitive in a long time. You don't need to tell me that. I got it. And there's a good chance that they go and play these teams and lose a bunch of them. Or I think it's only 2 games. But it's the optics of it. It seems so little brother for BC. And it's kind of a shame, especially that it's in Charleston. Like, you've gone from, what was it, the Bahamas 2 years ago to the Cayman Islands to Charleston, South Carolina. And not a knock on Charleston, South Carolina. It's a beautiful city, but it's not the Caribbean. So it's kind of a step down. So this whole thing, it's hard to get excited about. You're playing, nothing against the teams you're playing. They're perfectly fine. It's just not that exciting. So that was my thoughts on that. Now, I was going to talk more about that, but there's really not much to bring up. The one thing I wanted to bring up is this growing media obsession with the Syracuse Orange football team. I saw the ACC Network the other day post a video of Fran Brown with a caption of building culture in Syracuse. And I couldn't help but chuckle to myself because less than 24 hours later, they landed a bunch of commitments in the transfer portal, but one is Zach Rice, who was in a pretty bad car wreck that ended up ending someone's life. And Jonte Cook. Rice is not my bigger issue. It's Jonte Cook, who got arrested twice in the last year. you also brought in an offensive lineman from FSU who basically their whole team just quit last year and their offensive line was a complete joke. And the thought is that they're building culture. It feels like to me he's just reaching and grabbing guys out of the portal. I don't know what he's. I don't get it. I'm not. I must be missing something because you bring all these guys in. None of the like. You're not developing anything within your program. You're just doing like a minor league version of what Dion's doing, but a lot. It's a lot more minor league, as I said. But why is he getting like has he won a garbage schedule last year? Remember, I'm gonna say this. Yeah, he won what, 11 games? You beat Miami. Congratulations. That's a great win. You also got smoked when BC removed Thomas Castellanos. They could not stop BC's running attack at all. And I wonder if it's because they're not really that tough of a team. They weren't a tough team. So I look at their schedule this year. BC plays what, 3 playoff teams? Syracuse plays 4, and they've got a hellacious schedule. This love affair of the orange, I think, is going to end soon because Fran Brown got lucky last year when he ran into a roster that had some good talent with the Rondé Gadsden. They had some decent wide receivers that they had, and he brought in Kyle McCord. Steve Angeli could be the answer, but I still question whether this team is what they think they are. But every time I read, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, what does it say for your roster that you brought in Jonte Cook? Like a guy that has that recent history. Like he's a 5-star, I get it, but I mean, what are we doing here? So I was floored with that. I thought it's one thing to say that, but like you could say that Fran Brown is dedicated to winning because clearly that's what he wants. That he's doing a good job at that. Sure, that's fine. But building a culture, he also lost his whole team in the transfer portal. What culture is he building? Like, all the guys are very quick to leave. And I had to laugh also before we head out. If you have not checked out yesterday's Locked On ACC squad, it was my first time on there. And I had a great back and forth with the Syracuse person. I think you'll enjoy it. When Jackson started to complain that teams were tampering with Syracuse, and I pointed to him and I said, we were talking about which player BC lost that hurt them the most in the portal. And I said, George Rooks. And it's funny that you bring that tampering because, man, he ended up at Syracuse less than like 12 hours after he entered the portal. So, it's a great podcast. It was fun for me. I hope you guys listen to it too. It's in your podcast feed if you haven't checked it out already. So big day for BC to wrap things up. You landed a transfer, Makai Byerson. You're adding to your defensive tackle depth. You added a linebacker for the future in Steve Klein. Things are looking positive for BC. On Monday's episode, we'll go over everything that happened this weekend. If there's news, we're going to talk about it here on Locked On BC. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And we hope to see you again on for next week's episodes of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.